Ladies and gentlemen, can you feel what's in the air? The hopes and dreams of all 32 fan bases across the NBA, they're sky high. You can't tell them anything. They're hanging on every single play in the preseason. Anytime the rookie touches the basketball, it's the greatest thing in the. What's going on with all the explosions? Can we cool? I know Can we cool it with the explosions? Can we tone down the NBA preseason is in full swing, ladies and gentlemen, and oh my goodness, I'm so excited to talk about basketball. I'm so excited to watch basketball again. I can only care to pretend about the NFL so much. Just such a terrible league. And even though the Dallas Mavericks, my Dallas Mavericks, are 0-2 to start the preseason, I've seen some stuff that makes me quite excited about what the future might hold for this team, specifically from their young rookie center, Dereck Lively, who they drafted 12th overall in the past draft. Now, I've had Mavs fans, come into my chat and say, oh, Sonny Bias, I was so excited for the season. I had so much hopes. My expectations were so high going into the season, but after these two preseason games, I'm done. They're not going to be good. Listen, okay? You never had high hopes. You never had high expectations, okay? You lied to yourself. As a real hopium user, as a real hopium addict, that doesn't go away easy. We're riding this train until it falls off the tracks, ladies and gentlemen. The important thing to remember with preseason is wins or losses, it doesn't matter. You watch for the process. And when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks, there's actually some stuff to take away from their losses, even though it was bad. I think in their first game against Minnesota in Abu Dhabi, they were down by 29 points in the first half at one point. So, yeah, there's definitely some stuff to work out. But there's some stuff, especially from Dereck Lively, the rookie center, who I have to talk about. I really like what I've seen from him so far. I need to start by saying, obviously, yes, it's very rare that a rookie player comes into a team that's trying to win, a team that's not only trying to make the playoffs, but compete in the postseason. It's very rare for rookies to come in and have immediate impact on those teams, especially rookie bigs, because it's a hard transition. But here's the thing. I want to talk about this, okay? Let's look at the centers drafted in last year's draft, around the range that Dereck Lively was selected for the Mavericks. You have Jalen Duren. You have Mark Williams. You have Walker Kessler. Look at all of those guys. All three of those guys ended up being big, impactful players by the end of the season for their teams. Of course, all their teams were terrible, but that's neither here nor there. They were good players, right? And if you had any one of those three guys last year to the Dallas Mavericks make the playoffs. Like, I'm confident those guys cover up the flaws of last year's Mavs teams enough just to sneak into the playoffs. And that's what we're asking out of somebody like Dereck Lively. Can Dereck Lively cover up the holes left by Dwight Powell, right? The weaknesses the Mavericks really need to address, interior defense and rebounding. Can he cover those up well enough as a rookie for them to add another 5, 6, 7 wins to their total, which would have got them into the postseason a year ago? Just watching these last two games, it was just a little bit shocking to me how ahead of schedule Dereck Lively looked at times, just in terms of how he processed being an anchor defensively. His defense on drop coverage in pick and rolls, it was good. It was on point. He didn't let guys beat him. He had some moments, right, where it's like you need to make sure you step up on drives so there's not easy dump offs or easy floaters, but those are stuff that you'll learn over time. But it was shocking to me how well he looked defensively and how well he handled himself. You know, you had plays where he was breaking up alley-oop attempts because he was just in the right place, and he played it perfectly, almost baiting the Timberwolves into throwing that lob pass. He knew that he's long enough to get up there and contest. There's this one possession right here that I absolutely love with just the presence of mind to be under the basket, be a deterrent in there, but also get out of the paint so you don't get 3 seconds, tag guys so you don't get 3 seconds, that presence of mind, while also just being there, being a force, being a deterrent. This possession does a great job, it alters shots, and then it ends up turning into a turnover for the Dallas Mavericks. Just a tremendous defensive possession by Dereck Lively. You also have the shot blocking abilities that he provides. 3.9 blocks per 36 minutes so far through 2 preseason games. Is that an insane sample size? Yes. Only a sick person would use that as a sample size. And since we're just riding the delusional wave as hard as we can because it's a preseason and we have nothing else to do, that would be the highest blocks per 36-minute total in the history of the Mavs franchise for players logging over 20 minutes per game, which is what I expect Dereck Lively to log this year. Are there going to be some growing pains with Dereck Lively? Yes, of course there are going to be. A young rookie center, these guys take some time to adjust to the league. Fouls are going to be a problem for him. He had 4 fouls in the first 14 minutes of game 1 of the preseason. That's something he's going to have to cut down on it. And yeah, some of these calls I thought were bogus. Some of these calls I thought were terrible. But guess what? A rookie center's not going to get a very friendly whistle in the league. So these are problems that he's going to have to deal with. He did much better in game 2. We can live with 3 fouls in 22 minutes and 1 foul in 14 first half minutes. We can live with that. But it's going to be a problem throughout the season. He's also going to have to get stronger. And if he wants to be a big contributor on a team trying to win in the West, he's going to have to get stronger immediately. You had this Gobert back down where he put him on a poster, and that's going to happen. As a rim protector in this league, you're going to get put on a poster from time to time, all right? Don't let that deter you. Don't let a lot of these casuals out there only saw that play, and that's what they're going off of. Fucking idiots, all of them. I mentioned it earlier, but I'm very impressed as to how he guards pick and rolls. It's like the biggest way to exploit centers in this league is put them in pick and rolls and consistently hunt them in pick and rolls. And I thought he's done a great job so far against a team that's going to be a good pick and roll team in Minnesota with Mike Conley, as the point guard. You also have Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards only played one game, but then you have Cat and Gobert as the roll or pop guys. That's a hard cover. That's one of the things that's also encouraging for Lively. This is a tough matchup for a rookie center in your first preseason games going up against Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. And I thought he held his own. I thought he played well. You can also see his rebounding presence. He didn't, have any crazy rebounding totals or anything like that. I think he's averaging 8 rebounds per 36 minutes so far, which isn't that great for a center. The rebounding is going to be a huge factor for the Mavericks because they were terrible. They were a horrible rebounding team a year ago, and it's one of the reasons why they lost as many games as they did. They only out-rebounded their opponent 14 times. 14 times, not in the first half of the season. Oh, not since post-All-Star. 14 times the whole 82-game schedule. You know how fucking insane that is? The next closest team was Brooklyn with 22. That's embarrassing. And just to show you how important this is for the Mavericks, they went 13-4 in games that they did not get out-rebounded. Now, that just sounds like, well, yeah, duh, you're going to win most games that you out-rebounded the opponent. But that just goes to show, man, this team needs to get better on the glass, and they need to do it immediately. Last year, they had a defensive rebounding percentage of 77%. That was 20th in the NBA. Offensive rebounding percentage of 21%, dead last in the NBA. 9.5% of the Mavericks' points scored last year were on offensive rebounds. That was second to last. 12.6% of opponents' points last year were on second chance points. That was 24th in the league. So they got absolutely killed on the glass. And it's a big reason why late in games, the game would sort of fall apart for them was because teams got so many second chances that led to these big runs at times and these just like demoralizing sequences for the Mavericks. I like his intensity. I like his effort on the offensive glass. Even if he's not pulling in the rebound, he's fighting for it. He's tipping it. He's making the defense work for it. What does that mean? It gives your defense time to get back. It gives your defense time to get set while the opposing team is sort of scrambling for the rebound. And that's incredibly important for the Mavericks because their transition defense off of missed shots last year was really bad. Opponents scored 1.22 points per possession off of Dallas misses last year. That was the third most in the league. Their transition defense got torched. And again, that's something that led to these big runs. Opponents scored 1.23 points per possession on missed threes last year, which was the highest number in the NBA. And why is that important? The Dallas Mavericks shoot threes. They are a jump shooting team. They shot 41 threes per game last year, which was the third most in the NBA, and they've shot 46 threes per game so far in the first 2 games of the preseason. So they're going to get those shots up. And having somebody down there in the paint who's going to fight for rebounds, who's going to make life difficult for the defending team, it's important for the Mavericks with the style that they play. I also want to point out another thing that I really enjoyed in the first 2 games was Grant Williams. I mean, Grant Williams is going to be massive for this team defensively, and I think we saw that in the first 2 games. I saw people on Twitter who were like, oh my God, Grant Williams has been such a disappointment so far. What the fuck were you guys expecting? I think some Mavs fans are actually genuinely expecting Grant Williams to turn into like some 15 point per game scoring guy who like could pass from time to time and have the ball in his hands. You guys need to check into a mental institution. Okay, and that's coming from me. I thought Grant did a tremendous job closing off drives from time to time, making life difficult on guys way bigger than him like Cat. And Cat had a great first 2 games. Like, I'm not taking anything from him, but Grant Williams made his life hard at times, closing off driving lanes, helping. He had a really nice help block on Rudy Gobert early on in game 1. That was just beautiful to see. And making your defense less akin to a layup line, which is what the Mavericks defense was a year ago, is going to be very important for this team because last year, opposing teams shot at the rim 34% of the time, and they converted on 68% of those attempts. It's a recipe for disaster. If you don't have good interior defenders, if you don't have good rim protectors, yet your defense is allowing people to get to the rim at will, oh, you're in for a long, long season. And guess what? Last season was the longest fucking season of my life. I barely made it out. So adding guys who defensively make it tougher for teams to get to the rim, while also adding a guy who's able to alter shots at the rim and block shots at the rim and be a deterrent down there, it's going to be really big for this Mavericks defense. And it might take some time. There might be some growing pains, right? Remember, this is like there's a lot of new pieces at play here. Dereck Lively, Grant Williams, Dante Exum's going to get a lot of run this year. Derrick Jones Jr. might get some run. Omax as a rookie as well. There's a lot of new pieces, and it's going to take some time to gel. But defensively, this unit is much better suited to be in the top half of the league defensively than they were a year ago. And when you factor in how good this team's going to be offensively, like I haven't even touched on Dereck Lively in the pick and roll, which just looks really good next to Luka. Obviously, Luka Doncic is so incredible as a pick and roll ball handler anyone's going to look great next to him, right? Just look at Dwight Powell's numbers. Although Dwight Powell's a great role man. Like that just is what it is. And hilariously enough, Dwight Powell's like leading the team in plus minus so far. That's just how it's always going to be, right? We love Dwight Powell. Dwight Powell to finish, stand up. Having a defense in the top half of the league combined with the offensive firepower that this team should have, that's a playoff team through and through. Like that just is. I want you guys to remember, yes, last season was a huge disappointment, a huge embarrassment. Everyone's so low on the Mavericks. Man, remember how bad it got at times, guys. This was a bottom 5 defense in the league, okay? I really struggle to see them be that bad again this year. And there's going to be growing pains and times where it looks terrible, right? They gave up like 40 points in the first quarter in game 1 to the Timberwolves, but the Timberwolves couldn't miss from 3. There was still some stuff that I saw. And Dereck Lively, I think, is ready to contribute sooner than a lot of people, including myself, expected. And if that's the case, that's really, really good news for the Dallas Mavericks. Anyways, guys, don't be afraid to let your delusion show. All right, it's early in the season. You're not going to have much longer to get your delusion off. Because once November comes around and your team's on 1 of 4 in the last 5 games and the vibes are in the toilet, you're going to wish that you had these good vibes early in the season. Okay? You're gonna look back on September and October and say, fuck, man, I should have just believed. I should have just blindly believed so I could be happy for at least a couple months.